early say, you know, this is not about divorce. Because most couples, even if they hate each other, they try to work out what's best for the kids. This is about cases where people beat each other up or rape children. So you bring it back. Do not lump them together. General tips. Do not ever exaggerate. You will get caught. It's like my mother used to tell my brother, Johnny, there are two kinds of people in this world. The kind that get caught and the kind that don't get caught. The sooner you realize you're the kind that gets caught, the happier your life is going to be. So, there you go. Do not lie or bend the truth. And frankly, pretty much try not to say anything where you don't have a piece of paper that 100% supports what you're talking about. Simplify your story, we talked about that. One thing that I think has been enormously helpful when I've talked to people in the press is to quote Andrew Vax, who used the term growing your own victim. And it sends chills down people's spines, because I say, you see, that's what batterers and abusers have learned to do. And especially pedophiles. They've learned to grow their own victim. If they rape a stranger child, they'll go to jail. If they rape their own child, they'll get custody. People don't like that. They don't like it. So that's important. Also, tell them good news. Share Dr. Joanna Silberg's turned around cases. Say, look, sometimes the right thing is done. So that's something that you really want to do. I would say one of the things that we most need in this movement is a list of all the people who in the media who have been contacted, their phone numbers, their addresses, their emails, and we don't have to write and be nasty to any of them. We just need a list. So we can start shaming, because I frankly think it's about goddamn time. So I feel like I've spent the last 10 years trying to talk reasonably to the press. I have a list a mile long. Oh, they get really interested and then they do nothing. So I'm bitter, which doesn't really help. But I do think if we had a database, if we had people that we've approached and then have their names up there. You know, for instance, I tell people about Nicholas Kristof. I think Nicholas Kristof writes the best op-ed pieces of anybody on the planet. But you know what? He's done a lot about the kids in Thailand. He's done a lot about the kids all over the world. He has not done anything on the children in this country who are given over to sexual abusers. Nothing. The closest he came was the Dylan Farrow story. And he did not follow up, and neither did anybody on the New York Times. Okay, name it. Now, I wanted to mention some good news, because I think this is good news. The Daily Show, my hero, Jon Stewart. I'm going to miss him, talk about his. Did anybody see Parenting with the Enemy? Google it. Make sure you see it. Samantha Bee, Parenting with the Enemy. She did a big story for us on how rapists can get custody of their kids. She did it, all with humor. Something that I seem to have lost long ago, but somebody out there can do it. Now, so I feel like our job is to present stories simply, clearly, honestly, and without anger. And I think that's a hard thing to do. I wanted to, I was talking to my aunt the other day, and I said, you know what, on this issue, I toggle between exhaustion and fury. And she said, oh honey, don't worry, the gotta get even will get all the bad people. And I just love that expression, the gotta get even. So I'm hoping. But what I want us to do is learn to speak truth to power in simple, clear clear ways. And I want to call out people by name, whether they're judges, whether they're lawyers, whether they're journalists. We need names. And if anybody's going to do this, don't make it a crazy site. Don't make it with the red things going crazy. Be lavender. You know, be cool, as they say. So I want to end with something that I remembered from years and years ago, which was a book called All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And it said, one of the rules was, when you go out into the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. And I would like to say to all of us here today, let's hold hands and stick together. Thank you. Questions or comments, I'm happy to take them. We've got a few minutes, right? Excuse me, Mo? 15 minutes, okay.
Okay. My name is Betsy Keller. I worked in public relations for over 20 years. I just finished 4 years of litigation where my abused ex-husband was given sole legal and physical custody. I was given 43% parenting time as a concession, so he wouldn't have to pay me child support. So I drove my kids half the time with no money. I've been working pro bono with the Stop Abuse campaign. By training, and I've done PR, and I've done difficult stories about health and science and medicine. I came to Barry, we just had lunch, and I said, I want to create a database of all the cases, because what I have been working on for the past year, I write pitch after pitch in my house. I'm a freelance journalist, public relations. I'm working on a pitch right now to a major television network show, because I have a connection. Guess this is another little PR tip. Find a connection who went through a bad divorce. They'll listen to you.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So I have an email to the major producer, custody battle, and I've been working on this pitch for a week, and I keep turning it over. Because guess what? I'm still write every pitch I've ever written. I had a 3-part series promised to me in the local paper to blow Connecticut judicial system out of court, Fairfield County, wealthiest county in America. Guess what? The lawyers know. I have 500 pleadings in my case. My case went on and on and on. My investor, ex-husband, has been a case lawyer. So every story, I've had 6 almost has been New York Times connections. I get them to a certain point, they're listening. I don't sound crazy anymore. I learned, I stopped crying. And I stopped calling the judge a shithead.
Really? You gotta do that. You gotta do it, right.
Anyways, my point here today is Stop Abuse campaign. Since I've been working with them, I attach myself to them like a remora to a shark. Because once I knew Barry Goldstein was providing, he's just been named director of research for Stop Abuse campaign. And once I read Mo Hammond's book and your chapter on media, which I keep on my best stand, by the way. I don't know how I got here, but I just want you to know that I would like to create a 1-page survey where everyone could access it through Google, through the Stop Abuse campaign website, okay? And it would be really easy. And I know exactly what she's talking about. It just has to be facts. It has to be objective. I want to know who your judge was. I want to know what state you're in, what your custody evaluator is. It'll be secret, top secret, anonymous. When I pitch my stories, I don't talk about my case. Guess what? I lost my kids out of retribution. I spoke to Ann Stevenson at the Connecticut hearing, January 2014. And my judge, Ann had written about my judge and his corruption. Guess what he did to me? He found out I befriended Ann Stevenson. So, I don't say names, I don't give numbers. If you want to talk to me personally, if you want to talk to Gary, Melanie Below is on our board of directors. Melanie, just stand up there, and I know you spoke yesterday.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. You know, it's very possible that you all could be the answer to a great big prayer that just kind of happened today.
They get 20,000 people visiting their site a month to read their posts.
This is really great. And if I know that what you're doing is huge, but boy, it would also be great if you could add something about the, if these people want a question about have you tried to approach the media, if so, who? It would,
I would like to create the survey.
yeah.
You, the survey tailor to craft it.
This would really be great. Thank you so much for saying something, and thank you for your work. And thank you for the Stop Abuse campaign. That's really, really great. Yes.
Hi, so my name is Teresa. I have two comments and suggestions, and I suggested this in the past, and I think we need to do the suggestion again. Number one, when there are cases in the media that are positioned as something other than domestic violence, but when we know that it is domestic violence, I think it's our responsibility to write op-eds or to have the media respond to it in a way to call it out for what it is. So, for example, George Zimmerman, Elliot Rodger, the serial killer in San Diego, these are all cases where if you look deeper in the articles that follow up, there's always some level of domestic violence in the past, and the media doesn't portray it as such. So that's one example. The other is I wish that the organizations, advocacy organizations, would actually respond to cases, celebrity cases such as the Sarah McKenna case, and actually talk about it in a way that gives their opinion that this is an issue that's relevant to all of us. So you guys know who Sarah McKenna is? She's the girlfriend or ex-girlfriend of Bodie Miller. So if anybody saw the Bodie Miller case, I don't know if you
Yes, I can't really speak to it with any kind of intelligence, but I do know that he was the one that came out smelling like a rose, and he got custody of the kid.
Right, so basically they had a relationship in California where they met. It was like a 2-week relationship. She got pregnant, and then she moved to New York.
And they were not married.
And they were not married, and her case is very pivotal. If you read the news about it, she was basically lambasted by the judge in California for even leaving the state as a pregnant woman. And so she lost custody in New York,
Right.
appealed to the appellate division, lost, and then it wasn't until she got to the Court of Appeals that now they had joint custody. But anyway, look her up, Sarah McKenna. And Bodie
It's a
Miller.
good story. Thank you. Other comments? Yes.
My name is Jennifer. And I'm from
Would you stand
Florida.
up, please, and speak a little?
My name is Jennifer, and I'm from Florida, and you touched on it a little bit. And when you said that there are successes, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, is because I am a success, and my daughter is a success. And I want to introduce myself to you, and if you want to come up to me, I'll give you a hug. It can happen. It can happen. It should not take as long as it took me for it to happen. It took 8 years. It should not have taken that long. Holly should not have had to leave the United States. You all should not be going through what you're going through. Your children should not be suffering.
I really appreciate your saying that, and yes, I'd like to add something to that too, about the length of the battle and the cost of the battle. I think people are shocked to hear how much money it costs to protect a child in family court. So getting those figures, people think, oh, if a woman loses custody of the kids, what's the matter with her? And it needs to be moved around to be an economic issue, that the custody very often goes to the one with the most money. And those are not poor people. Those are people with money. So it needs to be shifted a little bit. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more comments. Yes?
Not a comment, just a question. I wonder why documentaries are not done on judges who don't use good common sense.
I can tell you why. I can give you an answer, and that's why we've all had to be so careful. First of all, judges are protected by the legal system. They don't have to talk. Their excuse can always be, I can't talk about the case because it's ongoing, which, as we all know, these cases go on forever. So that's partly the protection. It's almost impossible to go after a judge or go after one of the lawyers. Now, Hera McLeod went after the psychologist who granted her ex-husband visitation, and during that visitation he killed the child. And she sued that psychologist and won $500,000. So, you know, you can go after them, but the judges and the lawyers are pretty tough to call, and that's another thing that the media won't do. We know we're going to get sued. We know it's going to be a hassle. Most media don't have the money to certainly not any independent producer. And that's why one of the things too with No Way Out But One, we didn't say anything we couldn't prove. And Holly had been phenomenal at saving important documents. We also had the FBI documents. Holly was kind enough to open up the FBI file for us, so we were able to, the fathers' rights groups tried to go after Holly and my husband really, and I think Jennifer will agree, he's the best. And he really went after him hammer and tong, and so they went away. But we were very careful, very careful. Yes?
There are 4 mothers in Rhode Island who filed a federal lawsuit in the District of Massachusetts against the Family Court of Rhode Island, Superior Court of Rhode Island, attorneys, judges, guardian ad litem, therapists, class action lawsuit, and more respectively. I have information for those who like that.
Can you give us just so everybody here can hear either your name or something?
My name is Mary Howard. I'm actually a psychotherapist in West Derby, Rhode Island, and I'm here trying to learn about advocacy.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Yes.
Hi, I'm Quimby Wilcox, and I guess I'm going to take this opportunity. I represent, there are 7 million Americans living abroad, and if you think you have problems, you know, in the courts here, it's going on everywhere, try and do it in a foreign language that you don't understand. And sometimes against even worse social norms than we have in the United States. And I'm advocating for Americans living abroad. I'm fighting the State Department. I'm up on Congress trying to get some support for my fight against the State Department, because the consulates, they have it all in the books. It's under federal law. It's in their guidelines. They're supposed to be assisting Americans abroad. They don't do anything.
Quimby is doing extraordinary work. I'm sure many of you have seen her website or gotten her emails. Thank you for this. Okay, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. It has been a pleasure to be here. I will not be able to stay long. My stepson is graduating from Boston University tomorrow morning, and I have to get back on the train. But I wanted to be here with you all, so thank you so much.